Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to the Laguna Madre Water District. Notice is hereby given of a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the district to be held at 105 Port Road, Port Isabel, Texas on May 26, 2021 at the hour of 5:30 p.m. for consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the district on May 21st, 2021 at 10 a.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551041. 551050, not less than 72 hours prior to the time of the said meeting. We do have the presence of a quorum. All the board members are present at this time. May please have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for a wonderful day we first to the year. We just continue to ask you, Lord, that you will guide us and help us through the agenda items that are here this afternoon. And we also ask you, Lord, that we will be with Frankie Guzman's family, Lord, and we lift them up to you, and Joel Lopez's family. And we continue to have in our thoughts and in our prayers that both their fathers passed away, and we just thank you for your blessings, Lord. Again, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Today's nice code. We have another binder.
Moving along to item 3, invitation to the audience for comments. Board, staff, do we have things to share, discuss?
Oh, I hate this.
Board members? It's been a while since we have visited, shared, expressed. Staff? Public, do we have any comments?
I just have one.
Yes?
I left this one here. I was going to read it up in the recognition, but I'll bring it up right now. This is Joel's, I left one on each. Joel's dad that passed away. And he worked with the water district for 39 years. He retired in 1997. And just wanted to bring recognition and lift the family up in prayer for their loss.
Thanks, Carlos.
And the same with Frankie Guzman. He lost his dad. We keep him up in our prayers. So
Thank you.
Very kind. Well said. Anyone else, comments? Anything to discuss?
Yes, I have public comments.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Greg Clement.
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to say, first off, that I appreciate the work that the board and the employees of Laguna Madre Water District do. When I was a kid, I grew up outside the city of Mission, and we didn't have city water. We had a cistern that we would fill up with irrigation water, and that's what we had to drink. We had to boil it, and it was a mess. I didn't really realize we were poor, though, because the houses down the street, about 1,000 yards, they didn't have indoor plumbing. So they had to get their water with buckets from the canal. And so sometimes you may not really realize how important, I think, some of the generations these days maybe just take things for granted. But we've come a long way, and I'm happy to see that. The reason that I did want to address the board tonight is that I disagreed with the outcome of the RFQ that was presented on January 27th of 2021. I filed a formal protest on 2/2 of 2021. It was reviewed by administration and denied. And then based on that procedure, I am allowed to request an appeal to the board. Your attorney may try to claim that me addressing public comments tonight is my appeal to the board. I strongly disagree with that. There's no exchange of information. I'm not pleading my case. What I'm attempting to do is to ask the board to allow me to be able to consider my appeal. That a formal appeal to the board was done on February the 10th. Since then, you've had 6 meetings. One was an emergency meeting, but you had a meeting on February the 24th, March the 10th, March the 24th, April the 14th, April the 28th, and tonight, May the 26th. I have not been allowed to address the board at any of these meetings, despite repeated requests to do so, including your attorney of record in the emails. So I am disappointed with those actions. I would ask the board if they would look into this and allow me to address the board with my appeal of that RFQ. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bauer, thank you for your comments. We cannot comment or say anything at this time. Your statements are noted. We appreciate. Is there anything else at this time to discuss or carry forward?
Just condolences for the loss of the members of the family, you know, to this district. Prayers and thoughts are with you, and thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Mr. Starkey. Let's carry along to item 4. Consider and discuss for possible approval the minutes of the regular meeting from April 28, 2021.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Starkey, second by Mr. Donahue. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Move along to item 5, General Manager's Report, Reservoir Levels, Employee Recognition, and Evaluation.
Chairman, members of the board, I wanted to bring up that the reservoir levels, again, they are at 38.95 combined with Falcon and Amistad Lakes. And steadily, every 2 to 3 weeks is going like a 1% down. And it rained a lot last week and prior days, but it hasn't rained in the watershed. It needs to rain like up between El Paso, Laredo, Midland, all that area up there, so we can get that watershed going back up again. So it's going to take a while before that happens, and it may take a hurricane or bad storms. I don't know what it'll take, but it will get filled up again, and we're hoping that before the end of summer it will rain, and we get that watershed and lakes up again. But as of right now, we're still with it, conservation plan, still active, and hopefully that, with that being said, that customers and Laguna Madre residents will abide and water at those certain days that are allowed to water and have water for the summer. So as of right now, everything seems to be okay, but if it keeps going every 2 to 3 weeks, 1%, so that's what we have to keep an eye on. But I'll be bringing it back every 2 weeks until it gets better. Let me see what else. The employee recognition, I do have 3 employees that acquired licenses. Collect the wastewater side, the A license by Mark Delgadillo. He acquired that A license. Is the highest on the wastewater side, and congratulations to him. And then Justin Flores, the collection 1, and that's on the collection side where Joey Salinas is the manager, and they take care of the wastewater lines everywhere. Then Frank Silva acquired the D license on the pretreatment with Frankie Guzman on the lift stations. So those 3 guys, congratulations to them.
Those are big advancements on their behalf.
Yes, it is. It's great to know that as young as they are, that they acquired those licenses pretty quick. Because I think one of them hasn't been like 6 months here, and he already acquired one. But again, congratulations to them, and hopefully that everybody can keep doing the same and acquiring more licenses and more training, more education for them. And it's a lot of education that the water district provides for them, because it starts like with arithmetic, math, calculations of all kinds, and then chemistry, chemicals, and science. So everything's involved in there, even management classes or taught to them as they acquire the higher licenses. So again, hopefully that everybody can acquire more licenses and more education for them.
Carlos,
It's all paid by the district.
do
So
we provide more, less, or equal to other water districts in terms of continuing education?
I think it's equal,
Okay.
but
So most water
we kind
districts
of
pay
promote,
for those things.
right, we promote the education more often and emphasize it so they can get their licenses.
Yeah, it's great. We all should. Educated.
So then the third one that I have here is the evaluation form that I have provided for you in the first page of the tablet. It's in there, so y'all can take it and do your homework. Try to bring it in at the next meeting, and we'll have executive session on it if everything feels comfortable to bringing it up and discuss it with me at the next meeting. So if you all have any questions on it, let me know. Call me up and I'll help you out with it. So,
Is that your eval?
no, but anyhow, any questions, just call me up or you can call staff.
Time flies here in the water district.
Oh, yeah.
We put it off like 6 months. That's one time.
One time.
All right, Carlos, we give you 5, done.
Anyhow, that's it on that part. If any questions on anything, okay, I'll stay here because the next one's number 6 is
Number 6, consider and discuss for possible approval resolution adopting a revised personnel policy for the district. Resolution number 186-05-2021.
okay. These are the two resolutions that one resolution for both policy. One is on the longevity pay, where it's paid off to the employees if they actually are working for death, and it happens that accidents do happen, death, or if the employee retires, they get that longevity. So, and if the board is okay with that, we'll continue. Any questions on it? We did take away the one for sick leave, I believe it was. It did make sense that we had it in there, but after looking at it, we just took it off because it wasn't a good idea to put it in there, but it's off on that one. Then the next one is Chapter 11, which is a final pay for voluntary and involuntary separations, which is it's just a law on that one that it has to happen that way, that we pay at a certain time when they retire or leave the district.
I move to approve.
I second.
Motion for approval by Dr. Lalonde, second by Mr. Starkey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
Move on
you.
to Item 7, consider and discuss for possible approval of the hurricane operations manual for 2021.
Yes, on this one, I know that staff worked, and especially Mary and the safety officer, Felipe Zamora, Mary Gamboa, they worked on the new personnel that they need to implement in the policy there. So I believe y'all should have a copy of it in front of you. So it's just so y'all can read and,
That this?
no.
It's a big one.
It's a bigger one.
It's on binder.
That's in your bag.
Oh, she's gonna-
Forgive me.
No,
I've got it, Daisy. As
Yeah.
usual,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
always
okay.
well prepared.
Oh, it's in there, right? Okay,
Yeah.
that one.
We need to-
Mostly the changes would be personnel and phone numbers that people leave and change phone numbers or addresses, and that's all in there.
So only change that's been made is as it relates to turnover in personnel and
Correct.
contact information.
And board members too that come in. So we have Dave and Mr. Bill Donahue.
So we have Dave Bowder's cell phone number. on
We
record.
do.
Well, why wouldn't you? Everyone else does.
I find him every time I call him.
Remember, they don't work.
He'll answer.
Yeah.
But that's about it, and that one needs
Do we need to
approval.
approve it? So moved to
Motion
approve.
approved.
Second.
Motion for approval by Dr. Alon, and there was a second by Mr. Bonner. All those in favor?
Aye.
None are opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Carrying on to item 8.
Mr.
Director of
Robert Gomez
Operations
is on
report.
Zoom.
Yes, I saw him. Mr. Gomez?
Good evening, gentlemen. Sorry I'm not present there, but I do have that service call out report that I bring to you on a monthly basis. And this is the month of April for this year compared to April of 2020. There is a difference of about 91 calls from last year. We had 241 this year and 150 last year. Most of the increase was on the customer service side and the distribution. And that included the water taps that increased by 15, and we had occupant change that increased also by 23. And we also had district leaks, sorry, disconnect customers that increased by 13. Those were the items that were mostly affected. On the collection side, we had an increase of 21. And again, that was 17 on collections that increased. And most of that was on sewer backup. There were 8 there, and the other ones were just minor preventive maintenance. Well, actually went down by 1, but sewer taps increased by 8. So those were the ones that were mainly affected. And then the pre-treatment and lift station, those were pretty much the same as the last month. Since we just started this fiscal year with pre-treatment, there isn't really any to compare from last year. So I'm comparing month to month, and in March we had 45 calls, and for this April we had 41. And of course the biggest increase was in electrical, which increased by 4. And that's pretty much the report. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's move along to item number 9, District Engineers Report, Charles.
Hi, good evening. All right,
Charles.
sir. So, yeah, I just have one item for the engineer's report, just the desalination and GCEQ coordination. Of course, the desalination is our seawater treatment facility, and also the Port Isabel water reclamation facility, because of the salinity coming out of that effluent that requires desalination as well. So that's really the 2 projects that are really covered. That we went ahead and had an initial meeting with GCEQ this past Monday, and got some good feedback or some input on both of these projects. And so, I ended up doing this additional handout just to kind of explain a little bit of the seawater setup. So just to kind of explain what this Exhibit A is, this is actually just a page straight out of our license we have for that 36-inch outfall extension we did for the sewer plant. And basically all these hashed areas are USA easements. So they're easements that have to go through Corps of Engineers for any kind of real estate. And so that blue line is our outfall extension that we did to remove the copper and zinc limits, basically get less stringent limits for our sewer plant. And then we also, with Texas Pack, tapped into it. So their industrial flow combines with our sewer plant effluent into the Port Isabel channel. About halfway through, between the harbor and the Y, that's actually where we discharge our sewer, effluent today. And if we do look at a seawater treatment process, we'd be wanting to use that same discharge line to add that RO, the brine concentrate. So we basically had our initial conversation with TCQ on Monday, and the Corps of Engineers was involved in the call as well, since they had that draft statement of work, and we're thinking about that possible modeling for a seawater intake location and taking the location of our waste discharge into account as well. And so we were able to get some good talking points with both the Corps and TCQ. So what they would expect to see when we do approach TCQ formally with a permit, even though that's, 5 to 10 years down the road. At this point, we're just looking at that core study. That would be, 50% paid through hydraulics and hydrology group at the core, and then 50% paid locally. So that would be, if we do decide to proceed with that study, our local cost is at $142,500 at this stage, if we decide to proceed with that effort. And so, as far as the, get back on this exhibit, that A110E, that's, the harbor itself, at that north end of the track by the guard shack, that's actually really our first choice for a seawater intake. It's the shortest run to the sewer, to the water plant location. And then it's also, a spot that the general manager from the navigation district was bringing to our attention, saying, they'd be willing to entertain an easement or some kind of a coordination for that site. And then I guess the only concerns that we'll find out through the model is if, because of where our waste stream is discharging, there might be some kind of interference, or we got to determine how the salinity from what we're taking in and what we're throwing out, make sure they're not going to mess each other up. So we'd have to look at some alternate sites as well. So, and part of that same study with the Corps, as we get down to this orange track, A106E, there's a dike that's a perimeter for where it's still active, but then to place dredge material. And so we'd be looking at alternate sites, possibly even getting down to the Brownsville Ship Channel, just to see, where the optimal site is for the seawater intake. And so, I do have just a slide from a Carollo study that was on here where, as you get into more depth, you can avoid algal blooms. I mean, we're not looking at water quality with the core. We're just going to look at salinity and suspended solids really in that study. But, we have an intracoastal channel with a draft depth of about 12 feet, the harbors at 36 feet. And then as you get into the ship channel, we're around 50, 52 feet depth. So, we'd get to see basically, how that helps us in terms of what we can look at for an intake. And so that's really this first page. And then there's some cross sections from what the Corps has already done to maintain the intracoastal channel through there. So, I mean, this is just showing you a section of the channel where it's about 36 foot depth. And then it has, I don't know if you've been out there on the boat, where the drop's at pretty much. And so from there, we'd want to kind of dredge out to where we eventually do some kind of intake structure for a pump station. But that's the idea of what the study is going to determine for this. If we work with the Corps to identify our seawater intake. And then, let's see, I don't know, any questions on?
So you do a traditional pump station, like a wet well type pump station?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be an open intake, kind of the same thing down the river, but it would be a seawater intake.
I encourage.
Okay. So yeah, it's looking real positive. I mean, we're gonna have follow-up meetings with the water rights, the permitting group at the Corps. We haven't approached them yet. It was more the wastewater side of this call. And then so we're gonna also be able to share knowledge with Teresa Nichols' progress over in Corpus. So we'll be working together in that respect as well. So that's basically the seawater project. I don't know. Do you want to have any input, Jason, or we're good?
Only a good question.
Okay. So yeah, that's basically the seawater. I mean, the second project, if you flip over to the third page, this is for that grant application we submitted to the Corps of Engineers, to the Bureau of Reclamation for the way we recommended that project location in the feasibility study completed in 2015 was building the advanced water treatment site in Laguna Vista at where our water plant 2 is at. So with that condition in place, really for our reverse osmosis, our waste brine discharge, we'd be looking at discharging into that drain ditch along 100. And then there was this, possibility of either having to run a pipeline all the way out to the bay, or just simply discharging into the ditch and let the open channel get it out to the bay. And we have our salinity coming out of the wastewater plant's about 1,500. So the concentrate or that brine stream will be about 15,000. And with that condition, we should be able to go to the ditch. That's kind of the preliminary response we've been getting back from the Corps. So there shouldn't be a pipeline for that entire length required for our outfall. But that's basically the update with the TCQ coordination. And then I guess the other interesting part as far as funding and potential grant opportunities with the reclamation facility is that from Reclamation, they sent us some draft comments for some new programs to be consistent with the, Biden administration climate change. And so basically, they've been authorizations for the first time of possibly getting up to 75% federal funding versus 25%, which is what our current application, is at. So we'll be tracking that to see, if our project becomes something they look at if a new program to that effect comes into play. So that's kind of what we're watching right now. Yeah, that wraps up the engineer's report.
Do we need to authorize anything for you at this point?
I am requesting budget for the in a separate action item, and that would be the local portion of the.
$142,500.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's our half of the bill for this seawater desalination treatment facility analysis.
Yeah, for the Corps of Engineers to do that hydraulic modeling, that's going to be it'll help us give there's the technical requirements for the Corps, what they're going to want to see, and then plus for our own benefit from design to know what kind of salinity we'll be dealing with over the long term.
And we need that information for not just the seawater treatment facility, but also for the reclamation facility.
Now, the reclamation facility is entirely independent. So, I mean, just from a priority standpoint, we see the reclamation facility probably happening first. Anticipate that's going to be lower cost. So it just
There's
depends.
a desalination component also involved with the reclamation
Yes,
process.
right. Exactly.
But this analysis that the Corps of Engineers will be doing is not really that
Correct.
directly. It's more
It's strictly
site.
site selection for our seawater intake. That would be the core study.
Information we could use 10 years down the road.
Yeah, when we start going to the next phase of the seawater.
Affordability.
And
Yeah,
technology advances very quickly, faster.
we still haven't drafted that letter to the Office of Attorney General. I mean, I'm still wanting to do a final review before we submit it to them.
But if this project were to go through, you have to understand there's a large amount of grant money, state money, Texas Water Development Board money on board to make this project a reality. And I know that at one time, Texas Water Development Board wanted this project off the ground.
To the tune of a contribution that would be in what percentile?
I don't want to quote exactly, but a very large percentile of funding, probably,
More than 50?
yes.
How much?
I think that,
Speaking on my personal.
yeah, I think we should definitely proceed. It's in the public interest and the public momentum, I think, is behind it, both politically and otherwise. I'd like to see, a cool reclamation facility. I don't know, name it the Friedman, Milan, Starkey, Donahue, Bowder Reclamation Facility. It's the guys who started it. It's just, I'm throwing out names.
Yeah, well, we'll have a nameplate right at the survey, can drive by and see it. So,
I'm thinking pictures.
all right, there we go.
In bronze. All right, keep going. What's
Yeah,
next?
well, that sums up the engineer's report. There's anything, we can go on to the next item.
Let's move on to item 10, consider and discuss for possible approval of the budget amendment for water infrastructure fund.
All right, yeah, so this is just, for water infrastructure, requesting a budget increase. We'd be using the fund balance from prior fiscal year to cover it. And it's just the elevated storage tank, the amounts for that programming we had to do at Wisache to, force that valve to open and close because the hydraulic conditions aren't large enough of a change for it to do it hydraulically. And then the second item is the high service pump station, just adding the VFDs and getting a new motor control center for the part of the plant that's still from its original motor control center from 1985, and getting that done under that Sigel Western Greenwood agreement that basically or discussed at the last meeting about a month ago, and getting VFDs and getting that high service pump station improved. So this is just a budget item for that construction dollar portion. And then the third item is the statement award from the Corps of Engineers for the $142,000.
So what I missed, I left the room and we were only going to spend 142.5. I get back and we're spending
Well,
563.
it's three different projects.
So the middle one, I'm more concerned with the big hickey, the 418.
the 418, that's the high service pump station at Water Plant 2. That would be replacing the entire motor control center that's been there since 1985.
Okay, I remember that now.
And then, yeah, it's discussion, because guys, I know we had an amendment that was in the board packet, and then in discussion, it kind of, basically the motor control center was an addition that wasn't included in the backup. And so basically in this budget item, it has the additional engineering that's involved with adding that motor control center on top of the the actual construction dollars when it gets put out for bid later this year. But that's what that budget request is for.
Yeah, I make a motion. I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Bonner, second by Mr. Donahue. All those in favor?
Aye.
There are none opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Move along to item 11. Consider and discuss for possible approval of water system improvements, engineering design, bid and construction phase services, RFQ number WP-21-0501.
All right. Yeah, we did receive 4 proposals. I mean, this is the engineering services for our bond project to cover the, up to the 24 million that we submitted as part of the drinking water SRF. And we had our committee meeting on Thursday morning. So I don't know if the committee members want to take it from here or if I can. It's your call.
Run with it.
Take it away.
All right. Yeah. We recommend award to Priest and Nichols. And then just from reviewing the proposals, we didn't see a need to offer interviews.
I concur.
This is an action.
I make a motion to approve.
Second by Dr. Long. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None motion carries. Move on to item 12, the finance report.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Internet.
So I'd like to make the board aware of some ongoing internet issues that we've been having. Last month in April, we had an outage that lasted 2 weeks. Began on April 19th. And they detected an outage at the Laguna Heights elevated storage tank that we needed our climbers to climb up, identify the equipment, bring it down. IT checked the equipment, determined it had failed and was unrecoverable. We ordered new equipment. In the end, it ended up being 6 climbs that they had to do up and down trying to repair that equipment. Total downtime 80 hours, labor 46 and a half hours of labor, and the equipment about $300 worth of equipment. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that. Last week, there was another storm that came through, knocked out connection to all of our Port Isabel facilities. So the way the internet comes in here, it comes into this building, and then it's beamed out to all of our facilities. So all of them depend on this wireless network to be able to connect to our computer system here, and we lost connection to water plant, the warehouse, the lab, Port Isabel Sewer Treatment Plant. We're all offline. We surveyed it the next day with the drone flights. We saw that the equipment had come detached from the pole and had fallen. We ordered new equipment. They went up and made the repairs. Today, I can show you guys. I have pictures here of the conditions. Let's see. Wow.
I'm nervous just looking at it.
So you can see the conditions that we were dealing with. So we decided on Friday to go ahead and cancel the climb for that because of the condition of the upper ladder. As you can see, it's significantly deteriorated. You can see the equipment hanging off the pole. these pictures were actually taken the week before the storm. And then after the storm, the equipment that was hanging that had already become detached became completely detached, and that's what caused the outage out there. But due to the condition of the storm, you can see here, the equipment, there should be wires attached to that. Wires attached to that.
None of that is insured, even boilers insurance or anything?
So that one, the totals for that ended up being 46 hours of downtime, 14 hours of labor, and about $230 worth of parts. So just wanted to make the board aware of these ongoing issues. That equipment was installed about 2013. Is when this wireless network was established. Parts of it have been added on over time, and some of them have been repaired and replaced. But that's what we're dealing with. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention to the board. No, this tank, since the tank is offline, we're not.
There's no reason to go up there except it's basically an expensive tower for
communication tower at this point.
Because it's going to be decommissioned roughly
And
couple years, whatever. So I think we understand what the problem is. What's the solution?
So I have a proposal today that we're going to look at on item 14. So I'll bring that up here in just a second. So we're have a permanent solution that we've been planning on. We've been looking at this for a couple of years now, but I think the prices have come down to a point where it's an affordable solution for us. So, I'll bring that up in item 14. So that's all I have for the report.
Moving on to item 13. Are we done with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Move on to 13. Consider and discuss possible approval of the financial reports for March 2021.
So just want to make the board aware, revenues for March did seem to be affected by the water restrictions that we issued. Whether that's going to be balanced out by any pent-up demand from tourism, or we're not sure at this point how that's going to proceed. Most of our revenue, more than 50% of our revenue, even though we're 6 months through the year, more than 50% of our revenue comes through these summer months of June, July, August. Those are our higher revenue months. So just want to make the board aware of that.
Still trending better than we did last year, correct?
Yes.
Anything.
Oh, no, imagine they will be down quite a bit with all the rain we had. Irrigation wise.
Yeah.
All right.
Some action item.
Yes, it's for approval.
Move to approve. Motion made by Dr. Lalonde, seconded by Mr. Starkey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Motion carries. Let's move on to 14. Consider and discuss possible approval of internet network upgrades for the district.
All right, Eddie, pull the Band-Aid.
Okay.
Build up, let's kill
So we can run through it. Okay. So this this latest proposal came up out of the hard freeze, but as I mentioned earlier, it's something that we looked at 2 years ago. Prices were pretty high back then, so it was put on the back burner. But it's been brought back to our attention after this hard freeze. So just want to remind the board.
$2,800 a month.
Yeah.
That's $900 in hardware,
Okay.
right?
Yes. So So the internet carries our email, our customer phone calls, the meter data, the customer payments, the online banking, our EMS data, which is all of our customer vendor data and personnel data. All that travels through the internet. But right now we're having the issues that I mentioned earlier. The internet also carries all of our landline phones. The district has saved $4,500 per month since 2013 by using voice over IP phones. But the drawback is that any outage of power or internet brings down our phones. So like I mentioned earlier, the internet comes into this building and it's beamed out to all of our facilities. We have 9 facilities in total beamed out in a point-to-point fashion. So we have antennas beaming the signal and some catching the signal. And that equipment is becoming obsolete. So what we would like to do is we'd like to replace with fiber, which is more reliable. It's not dependent on power. It travels long distances without degrading, and it's not susceptible. It's more resistant to electromagnetic, corrosive, and lightning-related damage. We also have we want to upgrade our network so that we don't have this wireless point-to-point system. If you go to this slide right there.
Unrelated to this, what is this in comparison to the other we had a couple meetings ago with the state? What was the company that was trying to sell?
State cell phones?
What?
Okay, yes. So that is our backup solution right now. We did order 2 internet failover devices, and we installed one here at the main office. We
So would
installed
that have
another one at the
applied?
water plant.
Would that have applied with the outage we just had? Could you have used that?
So,
if we were a
yes.
member of that?
Actually, in fact, the water plant today is operating on that cradle point device.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, if we wanted to put 4 facilities on that, we're talking about maybe $4,000 because it's like about $1,100 each facility, one-time cost plus about $80 a month for the service.
But that service is only for emergency only, is that correct? I'm not
Yes,
I'm just trying
that's
to
right.
understand.
That's our plan right now.
This is a total rewire.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Wanted to-
So the network that we're talking about is this environment of servers, computers, security cameras, printers, laptops, and software all makes up what we call the network. It's that environment where all this data lives. And our network is growing and it's suffering from performance issues. And so we have all this data traveling over this network using this point-to-point infrastructure that we have. And this configuration is prone to failures, especially during high winds. And it's also subject to a lot of the corrosion issues that we have. And so it's very susceptible in our most common disaster, which is windstorms, disaster, tropical storms and such. And the way that we repair it, since we own it, we own all this equipment. So if it doesn't work, we got to fix it. There's nobody else to call. So we send guys, go to the next slide. We send climbers up. The next slide. And we send our climbers up on the towers to go repair this stuff. So like, for example, yesterday they went up, they welded a new rod to the catwalk. Since the lower ladder was in better condition than the upper ladder that we see here in these photographs, we felt it was safe enough to go use the lower ladder and just get to the catwalk. We were able to install the new antennas on the catwalk, and that restored connection to all the Portis Bell facilities there. But the upper ladder is the one that's in a much worse condition. And this is risky. Every time they go up, it's risky. The last year from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 880 fatalities in 2019 for false slips and trips. So, no matter how brave the guys are to go up there, there's still some inherent risks in doing that.
So this eliminates that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
So
if I may just cut you off.
we do have 2 proposals today. One is a wireless proposal to put all new wireless equipment. The other proposal is a wired solution.
Orlando, which one you want?
I recommend the wired solution.
The wired solution.
Mhm.
Wired solution, does that involve our guys getting on unsafe ladders?
No, it
Wired,
does not.
wired fiber is what you're suggesting.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Fiber at the main office and our other locations will be with a coax connection.
Okay.
And if I
So,
may continue,
sure.
you're
You want
doing
me
a great
to
job
just?
of your presentation. I feel like you are over explaining a $40,000 request. Charles, like, I went literally washed my hands, came back, and spent $500,000.
Okay.
You know,
All
so
right. I get it.
that's
We'll
where we're,
just-
but you did, I mean, this is incredible. And I know you're passionate about it. We spoke about this before. It's kind of why I knew this was coming, but we're talking about a monthly expense of $27.99 and upfront one-time cost of $792. Is that correct?
Correct.
For what you want.
Yes.
And as our IT administrator, this is what you recommend. It's going to protect us. And I love that we call it the hard freeze in West Virginia. So when the hard freeze comes, we're good with this type of system. Is that correct? Or any other similar situation that causes blackouts?
2021. What do we do if somebody digs a hole and cuts our line?
So that's our backup solution, which will be our critical. So we'll be running off of the cellular connection just while we get, with the fiber, we have a 4-hour service.
Agreement.
So we got 4 hours. So if they cut the fiber within 4 hours, they will come. So during that time, we will have.
4 hours.
It's a great question.
4 hours during business hours,
Right,
Monday through Friday.
That's correct.
Well, we got a backup plan, right?
We have a backup plan.
We have our representatives here from
Spectrum representative?
Any
That's right.
I love
specific
it.
questions?
Love it. I love it. I'm in. Like,
What's
let's
the
go.
worst thing that happened in the last month when the internet was down? So how
Uh,
does that actually affect us?
Well,
Other than,
besides
you can't check your emails.
the primary thing is the lack of productivity. It's not just the employees that are working on the repairs themselves, which we have one IT professional. He can only do one thing at a time. And so if he's working on that, he's not working on other stuff. So that's one thing. The guys that are working on that problem, but we also have a lack of productivity. Everybody though that was affected, their productivity was affected as well. So if we had 46 hours of downtime, 46 hours that they weren't doing their
Give me an
primary.
example of one task that couldn't get done.
Their income and their work under service, whatever they can't.
That's a good example right there.
Yeah.
They can't,
My warehouse guy couldn't subtract any of the inventory that he was issuing.
So what they do during that time?
He did what he could, wrote down items and did a lot of cleaning and that type of thing.
For 2 weeks. Cool. Must be clean right now. Okay.
From a communication standpoint, if your cell phones are using the Wi-Fi, then communication should be increased, especially in times of needs. That's the appropriate question for a spectrum representative. I mean, right? Like in my office, it's otherwise terrible cell phone service, but when it grabs my Wi-Fi, also provide that spectrum. Then I'm now making phone calls.
Mhm.
All right, I'm all in. I mean, you did. I mean, I think you need to get in service to Charles and how to adequately ask him for money. So I'm making.
I have a question.
All right, go.
Thank you. We're who's the spectrum representative? Back there? Move just a little bit.
You can,
You don't have to come up, you can if you want. We are a primarily minority area, and also, I mean, we're short in a lot of different things nationally. Spectrum offers minority-owned businesses certain discounts that I'm aware of. Do you guys have any information on that? How you might be able to benefit from something like that? In a minority area.
I'm curious.
Sure.
We have several programs to bridge the digital divide. A couple of which we're talking to several municipalities around the area that deal directly with wired service to homes and residents. So we're actively working on that. Well, the American Rescue Plan, the USAC, by wired services throughout the valley. As far as through municipality, we have a couple of different purchasing vehicles. One is the Department of Educational Resources, and then us
partially, but it didn't directly address if there is any minority funding that we may or may not be eligible for. I mean, I just got something in my inbox today from Spectrum about it, so that's what brought it up. So, and it might not even be something that's been a big rollout yet for Spectrum, but I would love if somebody could do just a little bit of follow up on it and see if there's any information you guys have, because there's one area of the country that certainly should maybe that should apply to. I would think would be municipality like this down here, where probably 95–90% Hispanic. So something worth looking into. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Our government affairs, yeah, would love to bring that.
Love to talk to him. Absolutely. Anytime.
Yes,
Right now,
ma'am.
we're also, our children are 80% economic.
We'd love to partner with Spectrum and be able to, nationally make known how you reached out to us on something like that. Certainly, yeah, Spectrum's trying to do it, and so if they're looking for a big win, well, if there's 10,000 people down here, or however many people do we serve? I'm sorry, 110. Terrible.
Over 6,000 customers.
Yeah, how many customers?
Yeah, our connections about
7, so times 4. So
number.
love to see what we can do with you. Thank you. Thanks. You can follow up with Mr. Eddie or Mr. Carlos, with whoever we think would be the best point for that.
Does that move the needle on this current offer at all? Is this a 2-year arrangement?
It's a 3-year agreement, and this does have government pricing through the Texas Department of Information Resources.
I'm sure if Spectrum needed to, they could come back and amend a contract like that, or offer something in some sort of way that would benefit the community. So, I mean, I'm open to signing into this today, with looking forward to follow up on it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Action item,
I'll move to approve.
second approval by Dr. Alon, second by Mr. Potter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None motion carries. Let's move along to.
Like you should get a round of applause.
15.
Thank you.
Hey, who Eddie, did you make this PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, nice, well done.
I
That's
know,
great.
like, we need to talk after hours.
We actually do need to
Eddie
talk
should go
about
on soapbox. Let's move to item 15, consider and discuss ratification of payment for a 45 horsepower submersible pump for lift station 22.
Chairman, members of the board, one of the pumps of lift station 22.5, we purchased an extra one, new one for emergency. So this item is just for ratification of the purchase.
I want a presentation, like I'm already voted up. Where's the?
It's like a one pager.
I mean,
Did the
I
PowerPoint
don't have
not
any
load?
pictures, there's no PowerPoint, you don't have members of the audience, like,
Hey, wait, there's pictures.
nice.
There's
Is
pictures.
there? My bad.
Yeah.
There's awesome. Motion approved.
Okay.
Motion for approval by Mr. Starkey.
Yes, sir. It was this guy.
Mr. Donahue, all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Let's carry on to item 16. Consider and review expenditures from April 16th, 2021 through May 15th, 2021. Everyone had a chance to review them. Acknowledged by Mr. Starkey and Dr. Lalonde. That include everyone. Yes, okay. Let's carry along to item 17. Executive session permitted by the Open Meeting Act, BTCA Government Code Section 551.001 et sequel, Section 551.072. Deliberations about real property discussion and approval of water rights lease agreement with Bayview Irrigation District. Please have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
6:25 p.m. A motion made by Mr. Starkey, second by Mr. Donahue. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. We're in executive session.
Motion to come out of executive session.
It has to be recorded.
Was that recorded? It was recorded.
Second.
Motion to come out of executive session by Dr. Lalonde, second by Mr. Starkey. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion and approval of water rights lease agreement with Bayview Irrigation District. I need a motion to proceed as directed.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr.
Second.
Starkey, second by Dr. Lalonde. That concludes the adjournment of this meeting at 6:45 p.m.